February. I wanted to welcome you to Rome, and you keep coming back.
Thank you.
Continua a ritornare. Last year, you were here and you talked about. I can have the mic?
It works.
Thank you. Last year, you were here and you talked about the most incredible experiment. You talked about Rome as being a laboratory, the center of the universe, the political universe. Are you still as optimistic as you were last year about the political experiment in Italy?
Yeah, I got it. You
Or
want-
the others?
Yeah. Look, I think this has been a noble experiment. This would be, and I've said it at the time, it'd be like Trump's deplorables working with Bernie Sanders people. Has it been perfect? No. Has it operated all the time smoothly? No. But I think what it showed is that people of different economic and cultural differences can compromise and try to drive our government forward. Whatever the outcome and whatever happens in the European parliamentary elections and whatever happens after that, it's been a noble experiment and I think one that's very worthwhile.
All eyes are on the European Union and the elections on May 23rd. Tutti gli occhi del mondo sono rivolti alle elezioni del 23 maggio. How are these elections, do you think, are going to unfold? Come si svilupperanno queste elezioni? E soprattutto, how are they going to change the relationship between the United States and Europe?
I think, listen, if you look at President Trump's engagement with NATO, and the mainstream media says it's been all negative, it hasn't been negative. NATO has spent over $100 billion in the last 2 years getting their defenses, getting their militaries more up to speed. President Trump's been very engaged in this. I think that the European parliamentary elections, although President Xi says all the problems are on the populist nationalist movement, and the people in Brussels say all the problems are the populist nationalist movement, if the election was held today, on data I've looked at, I think that the populist nationalist sovereignty movement could get over 50% of the European parliamentary members. And this was last summer when it was in the low 20s. So I think that you're going to have if momentum keeps as it's keeping, right? If it keeps as it's keeping, I think you could have a fundamental shift. And I believe that a party like the League may be the largest political party in the European Parliament, and a party like National Front or National Rally could be one of the second or third largest. So I think that the momentum is on the side of the sovereignty movement, the momentum's on the side of the nationalist movement, the momentum's on the side of the populist movement.
And how is that going to change relationships between us and
I think, by the way,
come cambierà il rapporto fra
strong nations, vibrant nations, robust nations based upon the shoulders of a free citizenry are even going to be closer bound. I think that, remember, in all my journeys throughout Europe, I haven't met a European leader that says they want to exit the EU. What they want is a different reformed EU. They don't want a United States of Europe. What they want is a confederation of individual nation states with free citizens. That is a perfect partner for the United States.
You talked about the Catholic Church, and you obviously spoke of Pope Francis. I believe 3 weeks ago, a summit on abuses was held here in Rome. You were here. Are you satisfied with the Catholic Church's answer to the problem of abuses as they're unfolding in the United States?
The summit was a total, absolute disgrace. The topic they should have talked about is absolute 100% zero tolerance. I'm a practicing Catholic. The issue we have is we're going to see the financial liquidation of the church in North America in the next 5 or 10 years. I'm not a theologian. I'm just a practical investment banker, businessman that's worked on lots of bankruptcies. The American Catholic Church is about 70% of the free cash flow of the entire Catholic Church. The liabilities facing the Catholic Church in the United States of America are enough to put it in financial jeopardy, if not total financial liquidation in 10 years. The attorney generals in every state have already opened civil investigations, and most of them have convened grand juries for criminal charges against authorities in the Catholic Church. They're about to go after the Catholic Church in North America with the RICO statutes, which were set up to take care of the mafia and shut it down in the United States. And to prove my point, last night, the diocese in West Virginia came forward because of the Attorney General and said that they had openly hired, knowingly, pedophiles. The summit was a disgrace because of the lack of zero tolerance of the problem and also the maturity in dealing with the financial crisis that the church is about to be hit with.
And I have one last question, really, really quickly, if you'll give us a very, very quick answer. I know you can do that. What is the most threatening presidential ticket for President Trump? And I'm talking about the Democrats. What do you think?
I think a combination right now of Kamala Harris and Beto as a ticket. But as we go on, remember, the vampire has not had a stake put in her heart. Hillary Clinton's still out there, and don't think it's not a zero probability. As they get farther into this and don't have a candidate that can take on Trump by the fall of next year, Hillary Clinton's going to be in the bullpen ready to warm up.
And do you think Trump's going to win again?
If Trump gets through the next 6 months of these investigations, that's a big if. If he gets through these 6 months of this gauntlet, he will win by more electoral votes than we won in 2016.
Grazie a Maria Luisa Rossi Hawkins, grazie a Steve ovviamente. Adesso ovviamente è la volta del collega amico, direttore del TG2, Gennaro San Giuliano.
Gennaro San Giuliano, he's the director of TG2.
Affermò che il grande scrittore russo Dostoevsky affermò che populista è colui il quale sa tendere l'orecchio verso il basso. Il populista è quello che sa ascoltare il sentire profondo del popolo. Lei si rivede in questa definizione di Dostoevsky?
In that a populist is someone that can listen to people on the ground?
Yeah.
Definitely, yes.
Look, I think populism can be very easily defined, and people that reach out to populism is that the basics of civic society, the basics, the people who teach the schools and run the civic organizations and are the police officers and the firemen and the teachers and the doctors, the basics of civic society is what politicians ought to focus on, and that is the populist movement, the silent majority.
In Italia Jeff Bezos ha provato a mettere il braccialetto ai suoi dipendenti, come si metteva nell'antichità le catene agli schiavi. C'è un tentativo delle elite globaliste di trasformare i cittadini, quelli che lei ha definito i cittadini centro dell'universo, in un codice a barre.
Yes, I think this is the point. We don't really have capitalism today. We have a neo-feudalism, right? Since the financial crash in 2008, we have this kind of neo-feudalistic society where you have very wealthy that got bailed out and very poor that are taken by some rudimentary social network, social welfare network. But the working class up to the upper reaches of almost the middle class are like 18th century Russian serfs. You're better fed, you're in better shape, you have more access to information, but you're just like Russian serfs. You don't own anything. You're not going to own anything. There's not going to be any permanent jobs. It's all going to be Amazon gig economy with no pensions, no retirements. You're like a lab rat. You're on the wheel, okay? You're on the wheel. And that's why younger generations say socialism's got to be better. You know why? this predatory capitalism that the party at Davos and the elites want to have is built the system we have today. A Russian serf with a barcode.
Gli 8 uomini più ricchi al mondo sono quasi tutti liberal e di sinistra. Questo significa qualcosa?
Liberal and actually they belong to the left. Does that mean anything?
I don't know if we can make a direct correlation with that, whether it means anything. Look, we have cultural Marxism in the left, and then we have the Party of Freedom and the Party of the traditions of the Judeo-Christian tradition. That is the two conflicting things. There's lots of progressives that are wealthy, and there's a lot of conservatives that are wealthy. But particularly in the Democratic Party in the United States, up until now, they're the ones, along with the other donors, that kind of built this system.
Un'ultima domanda. La Russia è un antagonista dell'Occidente oppure la Russia è una parte dell'Occidente in considerazione delle sue radici cristiane?
I was a naval officer on a ship that hunted Soviet submarines. I came back as a junior officer to the Pentagon during Reagan's time when we executed the war plan to destroy the Soviet Union. Russia's a kleptocracy run by bad guys. But it's an economy the size of New York State that's in a demographic and economic death spiral. The president of China, who is in Rome today, runs a radical cadre of the Chinese Communist Party that is an existential threat, not just to the West, but to every nation on earth. I think it's very important in the long term for the alliance with Japan and India and Brazil and Europe to bring in Russia. And I would hope the United States would take the lead on that, but honestly, with the hate and discontent in Washington, it's going to take decades.
Una piccola battuta. Un grande intellettuale italiano, Giuseppe Prezzolini, che ha insegnato per 30 anni alla Columbia University, diceva che il progressista è la persona di domani. Il conservatore è la persona di dopodomani.
Well, that sounds brilliant. I mean, I think the future. I think populist, nationalist, traditionalist, conservative sovereignty is the right side of history. Momentum's on our side. The flow of history is on our side. It's just very basic. Can we grab the moment? Can we grab the moment and drive it forward?
Grazie a Gennaro Sangiuliano, complimenti veramente direttore. Adesso proseguiamo l'intervista a Steve. Giampaolo Rossi, consigliere di amministrazione della RAI, la maggiore azienda culturale del paese, come spesso viene definita, blogger, editorialista, sovranista, eccetera.
Buonasera a tutti, grazie dell'invito. Allora, il preambolo della Costituzione americana inizia con una formula: we the people, noi il popolo, e sovranità. L'articolo 1 della Costituzione italiana dice che la sovranità appartiene al popolo. Nel preambolo della Costituzione europea non c'è nessun riferimento alla sovranità. Per un americano e per un italiano la sovranità è il fondamento della democrazia. Per l'élite europea è invece un lusso antiquato, come scrisse il Financial Times qualche tempo fa. Ma Steve, questa Unione Europea è riformabile veramente?
Oh, I think it definitely can be reformed. I think if you look at leaders like Salvini and Orban and Kurz in Austria in the Scandinavian countries, the election last night. I think if you look at this new generation of leaders that are coming up, it absolutely can be reformed and it will be reformed.
Allora, nell'ultima campagna elettorale americana, Donald Trump ha combattuto, oltre che con il suo rivale storico democratico, la Clinton, con l'intero sistema del mainstream, che mai si è schierato in maniera così compatta e in maniera così netta contro un candidato alla presidenza. E Trump ha vinto superando il sistema del mainstream, cioè dialogando direttamente con i suoi elettori attraverso la rete, in un processo che noi chiamiamo di disintermediazione. Nel futuro della democrazia, siccome Steve è stato uno degli l'artefice di quella campagna elettorale, nel futuro delle democrazie il mainstream è da considerarsi un pericolo nella sua fissità dei contenuti o un valore per la democrazia?
So I think democracy has never been more robust. In the midterm election in 2018, we had 113 million people vote. And Trump lost. We lost the House. 113 million people, as robust and as dynamic as it possibly can be. The mainstream media in the United States, and I think in a lot in the United Kingdom, has been so ossified that I told Trump right after we won, they're the opposition party, not the Democrats. We've broken the Democrats. They're the opposition. And that's how it's continued today. They are the principal opposition against Trump is the mainstream media. What so amazed me about the election in Italy, even more so than the disintermediation with Trump's Twitter account, was how Di Maio and Salvini ran their campaigns. Facebook Live. And Bolsonaro focused and studied the Italian election, and he won on a budget of $750,000. 750,000, not millions, $1,000, under $1 million.
Meno di $1 milione.
In July of 2018, last July, Bolsonaro was at 15%. They studied Five Star and they studied Salvini. And the first round, they almost won the whole thing at 47% and then 55%. 100% on new media, totally disintermediated the entire mainstream media of Brazil.
Due domande di politica estera. Una delle motivazioni della sconfitta probabilmente di Obama furono i suoi fallimenti nelle scelte strategiche di politica estera americana. Con Obama premio Nobel della pace, l'America ha aumentato di gran lunga le spese militari, ha aumentato le guerre dalla Libia alla Siria, ha generato situazioni come nello Yemen da cui è difficile oggi uscire. Ecco, Trump si è distinto nella campagna elettorale per essere un presidente che criticava apertamente la politica estera di Obama e voleva ridisegnare il ruolo dell'America nel mondo. Secondo te, Steve, oggi la politica estera degli Stati Uniti e di Donald Trump è molto diversa da quella dell'epoca di Obama?
Trump's foreign policy is 100% different. Clinton, Bush, Obama is all essentially the same foreign policy. It's America as an imperial power with promulgating an expeditionary humanitarian force in search or in support of these global institutions. From NATO to the Persian Gulf to the South China Sea to the Northwest Pacific. We turned all four areas into protectorates and not to be allies. The international post-war rules-based order with an open security guarantee by the United States was just destined to fail. So now whether it's NATO or the Gulf Emirates or the littoral countries around the South China Sea or South Korea and Japan, it's about having allies. So it's not this blanket American intervention everywhere, doing everything, sticking its nose in everywhere. But it's America in support of its local allies where it's in the vital national security interests of the United States.
Un'ultima domanda sempre relativa alla politica estera. Prima Steve parlava dei problemi legati alla Cina, al ruolo globale della Cina. Noi in Europa abbiamo spesso una sensibilità diversa rispetto ai grandi temi della politica estera, che è legato alla nostra sicurezza. Per noi il tema fondamentale è il rischio del terrorismo, dell'integralismo islamico, e non possiamo non sottolineare che oggi il paese che con maggiore forza e in questi ultimi decenni ha finanziato organizzazioni integraliste nel mondo è l'Arabia Saudita. 15 attentatori su 19 dell'11 settembre erano sauditi, Osama Bin Laden era saudita. Le scuole coraniche e le moschee che in Europa sfornano i terroristi che poi uccidono europei sono scuole coraniche salafite finanziate dall'Arabia Saudita. Perché l'Occidente, gli Stati Uniti, ma anche molti paesi europei, continuano a ritenere l'Arabia Saudita, paese guida nella violazione dei diritti umani, un importante alleato in Medio Oriente?
When President Trump, remember, our first foreign policy visits, and this was done for a reason, Riyadh, Jerusalem, and Rome, in that order, in the first virtual 100 days of his administration. And it was essentially to say, strategically, you've never really thought strategically, so that the radical Islamic problem, the problem with Iran, and the problem in Palestine are all of equal importance. You've got to prioritize the problem. The number one problem is the exportation and the financing of radical Islamic terrorism, and that this problem is centered around the Persian Gulf. Now, I would actually argue that Qatar is the bigger problem, but there was a serious discussion with all partners there that this has to cease, and there has to be mechanisms, there has to be agreements, there has to be understandings that this is a problem, because now it's a problem in the Gulf region. But I agree with you 100%. Before you get the support against Persian expansionism, you have to stop 100% of the financing of the exporting of radical Islamic terrorism.
Thank you very much.
Grazie.
Thank you very much.
Grazie Steve, grazie Giampaolo Rossi. Steve, l'ultima serie di 3 domande di Alessandro Giuli, che l'ho intervistato l'ultima volta che è stato qui a Roma, editorialista di Libero. Torniamo in Italia con Alessandro e poi solo qualche minuto per fare qualche altra domanda dal pubblico.
Per parafrasare i nostri amici cinesi, la rivoluzione sovranista non è un pranzo di gala, e lo si vede in Francia, dove i gilet jaunes, i gilet gialli, che lei ha citato prima e sostenuto fortemente anche in un recente convegno internazionale, definendoli come gli elettori di Trump, come gli inglesi che hanno votato per la Brexit, oggi hanno il fiato corto, perdono consenso, sono diventati violenti o hanno lasciato che i violenti prendessero il sopravvento nell'immagine pubblica della loro protesta. Non avremmo forse sottovalutato la force de frappe ideologica, economica e culturale di Macron?
I don't think Macron has. I think Macron's approval rating is still in the low 20s. It's come back, but it's in the low 20s. It's under 25%. That's not 1 point higher than the first round of the French elections. He hasn't moved at all. He's been totally flatlined to down. In September of 17, Macron laid out the whole program, further capital markets integration, further commercial integration, further military integration, further budgetary integration, for the Franco-German project. Macron has gotten no support whatsoever from the first round of the voting. And I certainly don't approve of the violence of the Gilets jaunes. But if you keep putting the burden for Chinese pollution on working class people in France, that's what you're going to get. First you take their jobs, ship them to Asia, then you make them pay for the pollution of that. All so the City of London and Wall Street can make more money financing it.
Mr. Bannon, lei ha sollevato la questione della transizione ecologica, citando l'inquinamento ambientale prodotto dalla Cina e non solo, che poi viene fatto gravare sulle spalle, sui portafogli, sui posti di lavoro della working class occidentale. I liberal hanno trovato un'icona attraverso la quale rappresentare la loro posizione circa la transizione ecologica, la giovane Greta, attivista minorenne, salita alla ribalta, diciamo, dei mezzi di informazione, come l'immagine perfetta del mainstream liberal in cerca di nuove frontiere di consenso legate alle battaglie ambientaliste. Il mondo sovranista, il mondo nazionalista, conservatore, populista, non può non avere un'attenzione profonda verso le questioni ambientaliste, ma che cosa oppone all'ideologia, alla narrazione di Greta?
Well, first off, I propose that we stop whining and start trying to educate young people. We're in a great institution of rational scientific thought. The environmental movement that those young people are backing is a new religion. It's a theology, not about science, it's about theology. And that is because conservatives have essentially ceded the field in education to the cultural Marxists. At the same time, we haven't held corporations and banks and our elites to have a real form of capitalism, not this neo-feudalism. So is it any surprise that young people both are attracted to socialism and attracted to these wild ideas on climate change? No. Because we haven't, as conservatives, contested it in the marketplace of ideas. And I think that's got to be a very high priority.
Ultima questione. La sua amica Giorgia Meloni, qualche settimana fa, intervenendo negli Stati Uniti, a Washington, se ricordo bene, a un convegno molto importante dei conservatori statunitensi, ha opposto all'idea tecnocratica degli Stati Uniti d'Europa l'Europa unita degli Stati sovrani. Oggi in Italia c'è un signore che si chiama Romano Prodi, che ha avuto un ruolo di primissimo piano in Europa, come sappiamo, e in Italia, che ha deciso di far appendere a finestre e balconi, pochi invero, la bandiera europea, la bandiera meno sexy nella storia delle bandiere. Però una bandiera chiara e riconoscibile. Come si disegna la bandiera del sovranismo internazionale? Come ci si oppone a questa narrazione per inverare anche simbolicamente la felice espressione di Giorgia Meloni, aggiungendo, piccola chiosa, anche le radici greco-romane a ciò che abbiamo già sentito circa il giudeo-cristianesimo, che è parte fondamentale della nostra identità.
That flag would be the flag of each nation. You don't need, as each nation has its own culture, its own way of doing things, its own outlook on life, and it's based upon its free citizens. That robust nationalism, that patriotism, that free citizenry, it's that flag of each country that'll be its symbol.